Okay, hello everyone. This is Ian Murray here, and I'm with the AVIA 342 GPS navigation. And today's assignment was the flight planning and execution using the G1000. Overall, really enjoyed this assignment. I'm just getting into using the G1000 in my training, so this is definitely a really great start for me, and the timing really working together well. So let's walk through the assignment. So first, here's just a quick overview of the flight scenario. So my departure airport in this case was KVCB, which is Nutry Airport located in Vacaville, California. The destination is PFV, which is in Placerville, California, which is essentially at the footholds of the or at sort of the foot of the Sierra Mountains here. So there's some terrain considerations here. And then the route for this assignment was from VCB, obviously, and then using the Sacramento VOR as a waypoint in this case, and following Victor 6 Airway to the Colum waypoint with the final destination at PFE. So this is maybe not the most optimized route, but this is just the example that I wanted to use for the sake of the assignment. The altitude for the course is 5,500 feet, which provides obstacle clearance heading into the mountains here. Total distance is 68 nautical miles, with a flight time of 44 minutes. Okay, so let's get into the G1000 use. So the first step, aside from pre-flight and all the other pilot tasks here, really just focusing on G1000 tasks for this assignment, was to begin the flight plan segment using the Garmin multifunctional display or MFD. Using the MFD key, I was able to cycle through, and using the MFS knob, the large and small knobs, I was able to cycle through and enter in the departure aircraft or departure airport, so VCB in this case, and then proceed with the SAC VOR, the column waypoint, and finally the destination of Placerville. Once those were entered, I went and cycled through and then updated the altitude information, which again was 5,500 feet, verified the accuracy of this information, and then prior to takeoff, I was able to activate this leg and proceed with the route to the destination of Placerville. So overall, fairly straightforward, fairly easy once I got the hang of using the two FMS knobs here. I think there were some issues with Microsoft Flight Simulator, but I'll go into that in more detail later. Autopilot navigation was very intuitive and straightforward to use, and was used throughout the vast majority of this flight. So shortly after departing, VCB activated autopilot, ensuring the flight plan was active at this point. GPS was using the navigation source, and autopilot was engaged with nav mode. And so throughout the duration of the flight, the aircraft was able to maintain course using autopilot, following the magenta line here. Altitude mode was engaged as well. You can see that heading or the altitude set for 5,500 feet as well. And throughout the duration of the flight, the Garmin, the autopilot system using G1000 was able to sequence to the next waypoint automatically, which made task saturation much more manageable here. And here's an example of just that. So this is us after shortly passing the Sacramento VOR. The autopilot adjusted course to the column waypoint here. You can see that information updated here on the primary flight display at the nav bar at the very top. Again, GPS, autopilot with altitude mode here. And then on the MFD, you're seeing that segment getting highlighted here in magenta as well, along with the track and distance information here on the right. And then, of course, the moving map adjusts to show a magenta line showing Sacramento to the column waypoint as well. Okay, moving on. One of the things that I really appreciated throughout the duration, including or aside from just a waypoint, was the MFD, the moving map display, and the associated information of the moving map. So here in this segment, this is a couple minutes later, we're showing the segment to the column waypoint here, and there's a lot of very useful information that is shown on the MFD here. So at the top, on the nav bar, you see the ground speed of 108 knots. You can see the desired track versus the actual track, and then your estimated time to reach the column waypoint there for 3 minutes 18 seconds here. And then overall, you have excellent situational awareness here. So today, in this segment, I was fairly clear of terrain, but shortly thereafter, you do start to reach the Sierra Mountains fairly quickly. So this moving map display, although not used for precise navigation through terrain, just gives you some awareness as you have the mountains ahead of you here. This flight was flown via VFR, so obviously you can use a visual reference as well. But I thought that feature was very helpful. And then another very helpful, I guess, feature of the moving map is obviously showing potential alternate airports and route as well. There weren't many on this segment, but as you're passing Sacramento, you have a lot of alternate options in the event that you had an issue. And then, of course, in the same display here, you get all of your critical engine and electrical information, tachometer, fuel information, oil pressure and temperature, right? All of that critical information that you can monitor as you're flying around. Okay, so just quick user interface improvements from my perspective. So I had some issues adjusting and entering the route information initially. To me, it wasn't incredibly intuitive at first. A sort of confusion around which knob to use when there's some different clicking involved as well, and that's more of a MSFS feature where you have to use the right click instead of the left click. Sometimes it's not really not that intuitive, I'd say. So I think for this feature, as well as the majority of features within the G1000 system, definitely spending some time to actually go through the various windows and features and practice and just ensure you're comfortable moving through those flows would be really helpful. Obviously, you don't want to be going through that in the air for the first time. And then that I think is just a little causes a little bit of time consuming, at least for me on the ground. It took me a couple minutes to really get set up and get going. But once everything was entered and everything was accurate, from there on, it was overall pretty smooth. So nothing too particular, but I think just some getting used to using it for the first time. Okay, so conclusion. So successfully created and executed a flight plan using the G1000, and then flew that flight plan as well. So throughout this scenario, we were using different waypoints. We're using the moving map information and using the autopilot to get us there. Although it took some getting used to initially, it was very intuitive once active and once we were following the plan route. The map significantly improves your situational awareness and monitoring. Not just for terrain or not just for your location, but a handful of other very useful navigational as well as engine information, all located on the same display. I think that autopilot made task saturation much more manageable and really allowed myself as a student to stay ahead of the aircraft, and really a very seamless transition once we executed the route, and then once I transitioned from flying the route into the VFR, entering the downwind for Placerville was just very, very straightforward, simple, and really overall a good use of my my time here to understand and learn the system. All right, thank you very much.